Hey guys, welcome back. So before we start getting into the actual gameplay, I do want to go over the buttons with the controls first because there are some things you may want to consider changing before you start playing, okay? So first things first, press your menu button to get here, go down to settings, or the gear icon, go to settings, and the D-pad icon kind of on the far right, it's the ninth icon over. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, really quick. So throttle, self-explanatory. You press and hold the button, your car accelerates, okay? Brake. Obviously, it lets you stop and it lets you go in reverse. I'm going to tell you up front, if you are trying to use this button to slow down or go around turns and things like that, you're playing this game wrong. Do not use this button to slow down. If you have to slow down for whatever reason, if you feel you have to, just let off your accelerator button. The brake button has zero use in this racing game. All right, so just keep that in mind because if you are using this for any reason to help you in your race, it is not helping you. You're playing the game wrong. I'm just telling you straight up. So you can either exit off or just reassign it to a button you're not going to be normally using, okay? I'm using it as R1 because I don't normally use the R1 button for anything, but I will use it for braking for the purpose of this tutorial. Okay, next one. In this game you can jump, so you just tap the button, your car jumps. If you press and hold the button, your car thrusts, meaning your car will jump and it'll thrust like it'll float in the air. Thrusters can be used in multiple ways. You can hold it so then it burns through the gas really fast when it floats you up, or you can tap the button over and over again repeatedly and where it lets you coast in the air a little longer. All right. But it's better to also tap the button when you're in the air so that way you can stay in the air a little longer if you need to, like you're going across a big canyon or whatnot. All right, but keep these two together. Don't separate them. I personally think if you separate them, it's just too many things you got to worry about. It's too much extra. Just keep them the same because it's very straightforward and it's not a real burden or anything to have them both on the same button. All right, next thing, turbo. So there is a meter on the bottom left of your screen when you're in the game that when it fills up to a certain point, it'll let you use a turbo. You can hold up to 3 turbos max. So turbo is pretty straightforward. You press this button, it's going to thrust you forward with a ton of speed. All right. This button I leave the same. I don't change it. Personal preference though. Rocket drift. So there's a way to drift without pressing a button. When you're pressing your joystick and you hold it for about a couple seconds, your car will start to drift on its own. Personally, I think that's the wrong way to go about drifting. It's better to have more control. So rocket drift is your friend, and you're going to be using this button a lot. Rocket drift means the moment you tap that button, when let's say you're pressing right, and you're going to drift right. If you're going around a right turn and you tap this button, your car is going to kick out immediately, and it's going to drift you going right. Okay. So I call it forced drift. So somebody will probably say rocket drift or forced drift. I use those two terms, but that's basically what it does. It puts you right into a drift. Okay, air dodge. Now, air dodge on a basic level, it is mainly meant for if you jump in the air and then there's let's say you're in a square tunnel. Okay, you jump in the air and you want to quickly get to the ceiling of that tunnel. You would press up and then you would on your joystick and then you would press this button. Your car will flip and magnetize immediately to the surface of the direction you press. This only works for the ceiling, the floor, the left wall, and the right wall. It does not let you mount diagonally, okay? So you want to mount quicker to the ground, you press down, and if you're in the air and you want to get to the ground faster, you press down and then you press the air dodge button, your car will flip and go to the ground. Same thing with going up to the ceiling, press up, press the button, you'll go to the ceiling, left wall and right wall, same thing, okay? So this button is when you're in the air and you want to mount to a structure, you push the direction of that structure and you press this button, you'll get there. The other thing that air dodge has is if there are no structures around you, it'll make you do a side flip. Like the car will just flip and kind of move you a few paces to the left or to the right. All right. There are many uses with air dodge, but for a basic level, the main thing you need to know for a beginner, if you are a beginner, is this lets you mount to structures and walls. The other thing that air dodge is useful for is positioning, but I will be going over that more a little bit later. But those are the two things with that. Okay, another thing about this, with these buttons being together, it's perfectly fine if you want to use these two buttons together. However, it is not recommended because rocket drift and air dodge, why they put these two together as default, I don't know. But it is not really, it may seem convenient, but it is not very good under a lot of circumstances because there's a burden that goes with this. So if you're drifting on bumpy terrain or rough terrain, and any reason you're trying to drift and you catch air in the moment that you're trying to drift, you will accidentally air dodge to the wrong direction. So if you were drifting right, you hit some terrain and you air dodge, your car is probably going to flip you and going the opposite direction. And it'll happen just by accident. When your intention was to drift, you may accidentally side flip the wrong direction. Okay? It can even throw you off into the barrier and get you killed. It can throw you off the line of your race and really discombobulate you. So keep in mind that you can keep these buttons the same. You can do all the fancy special tricks that good players do, but just understand the burden of having both. That it can and it will at some times or some points unexpectedly put some turmoil on you. So I highly recommend separate it. These two, separate. Long run, it's going to save you hassle, I promise you. All right. And my air dodge button is L1 for me. Now air roll. When you're in the air and you hold this button down, you can rotate your car in any direction. As long as you're holding the L2 button, your car will stay in that position in the air all the way until you land, which it'll just readjust itself in the direction that you're facing based on when you land. But when you're in the air and you hold that button, you use your left joystick, you can rotate your car around. This doesn't have much use early on, okay? This has more use later for more advanced tricks and things, so don't worry about it now, but just be aware of this button that you will be using it, all right, at some point. Okay, so with that, now one thing you do want to take with you about this setup, you want to be able to hold your drift button while being able to comfortably use the air dodge, air roll, your jump thrusters, and turbo. You want to be able to comfortably hold your drift button while being able to press all these. That is the whole thing you need to take from your controller setup. So however you set it up, make sure you have that in mind, because if you want to start getting pretty decent at this game, you're going to have to be able to do all those things comfortably. All right? So just keep that in mind and determine that now if you think you're going to be somewhat of a serious player or somebody that wants to actually get far in this game. Vehicle reset. Kind of like Mario Kart when you jump off an edge and that little ghost puts you back on track. Well, in this game, you press and hold the button, the vehicle reset. It makes your car disintegrate and it teleports you back to where you were at. So you disintegrate, it puts you right back where you were at close by. This is very useful because if you miss a checkpoint, you have to wait on a countdown, and it's no point wasting more time on the countdown. Just use this vehicle reset. It gets you out of a hairy position or hairy scenario of wasting time, and it resets you, puts you back on the track, and then you just continue on. Okay? So just keep that in mind. This is very useful, and I will talk about more about this later. So I assign that to up. That's personal preference. Expand positional tracker. Default is L1. I use circle. Okay? What this does is there's a player racer roster that when you're in the match, you can see 3 players. But when you press and hold this button that you assign, it lets you see all of them. What I used to do, I used to assign this to my accelerator button or throttle button, because that way I could see the whole roster up the whole time if I wanted to see people really quick. But that was a personal preference thing. So over time, I changed it because I decided I wanted less clutter on my screen. So then I just set it up a separate button, okay? But that's what that does. Exit vehicle has no use. I have never seen what use this has. I just get rid of it. Reset current speed run. So speed run is kind of like it has its own leaderboard, and it's like a 1-lap race of whatever map you choose. If the race isn't going good and you just say, screw it, I want to start that race over, you can. You press that button and it restarts you all the way to the beginning, so then you can go about practicing. I'll talk a little bit more about this in a later video, but that's just basically what that does. I assign that to left, okay? Spectate and spectate previous. So when you finish your race and you're waiting on everybody else to finish their race before the countdown expires, you press left or right and you can cycle through the players, all right? Exit spectate, that means you want to stop spectating, then you just press that button, exits you out of the spectate mode. Reverse camera, this lets you see behind you. If you're one of those people that has an issue where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm worrying too much about what's going on behind me, don't do that. Don't use it then. I would say exit off. I would say take that button off, but me personally, I don't have a problem with R3 being there or have the button on there. But if you're one of those that worries too much about what's behind them, get rid of the button, or just put it to another button that you know you're not going to press, or just don't press it at all. But it lets you see behind you. Don't be concerned about the racers behind you with this, because when racers get closer to you, their icon is going to appear at the bottom of your screen, getting bigger and bigger, and you'll see that icon get big, meaning they're right behind you, okay? But if there's no icons behind you, there is no reason for you to really worry about it. Anyway, that's the main thing with the controls here. Now, let's see the next thing. Okay, next thing about the controls. Let's see, invert controller view, no, aircraft. Okay, wind movement, pitch. Okay, this is something to know. So when I was talking about thrusting where you're in the air, if you're thrusting and you're in the air, if you want to get down to the ground faster without using air dodge, if you just press up, by default, if you press up on your joystick, you're going to nose down like an airplane, okay? So when you press up, your car noses down, it kind of helps you get to the ground quicker. If you press down on the control stick, it tilts your car up, meaning it'll let you help float longer. So if you were floating across a long canyon while you were tapping your thrust to float across, tilting your nose up will let you coast a longer distance without wasting all your thrusters, okay? So keep that in mind. But however, this setting changes it where, so when it's on, which is by default, it means up means nose down, down means nose up. Okay, if you want up to be up and down to be down, you need to turn it off. Okay, I personally leave it on because I like up being down and down being up only for this. But if you like up being up and down being down, change it to off. Okay, that's really important because you will be using this a lot too. Vibration feature, I can't stand this. I turn that off every time. I can't stand a vibrating controller. Let's see, and okay, let's see the next one. No, not here. Where's the next? Right here. Okay, icon only nameplates. So this one is only display player character icons on the nameplates attached to vehicles. So with this being off, you're going to see everything. You're going to see the player's name, their icon. It's a lot of extra text and clutter, and in my opinion, when you're next to other racers and you see a lot of terrain and things like that that you want to pay attention to, the names may clutter all that. I turn this on so that way I don't see that. I just see an icon over their car, not that extra clutter like their name and everything, okay? But that's personal preference. Here's the other thing. Okay, here's where things get interesting. So toggle throttle. If you put this on, it's on off, meaning you have to press and hold your throttle button to go. If you put this on, you'd only have to press the throttle button once. You just tap it and then your car accelerates full time on its own. But if you die, you have to repress that button, okay? I personally like having the full control of just holding the button down to accelerate, but if you want it just automated where you just want it to go, you just put it on, you press the button once, your car accelerates, all right? Let's see. Vertical, okay, invert vertical air dodge direction. So this one's a tricky one. This means it's going to air dodge you to the direction whether your nose is up or nose down. I don't mess with this. I leave this here. I don't know anybody that goes off of this kind of setup. I don't even know why it's there. I personally think it's pointless. But if you're pressing, if I turn this on, that means if I press up for air dodge to nose down and then I press my air dodge button, it's going to air dodge me down because it's going to go in the direction of where my nose is facing, all right? And to mount to a wall or things like that. I don't like that. I don't mess with that. Personally, I think this is pointless because you can already choose whether you want air dodge to be up or down based on the other setting that I showed you previously. I wouldn't mess with this. I would just leave it as is, but I'm just kind of showing you what that does. Okay, last thing. Invert steer method. What this means is, okay, when you're on the ceiling, up front, when you go from the ground and then you air dodge and you go to the ceiling, the default, the immediate, and the delayed, the default, the immediate, and the delayed, these three, okay, those mean left means left and right means right under normal circumstances, okay? So when you're on the ground, left means left, right means right. On the ceiling, left means left and right means right. But the one that you have to have the most concern with is if you want left to be right and right to be left, you need to select never, because that means that when you're upside down, that means your left is going to move you to the right and right's going to move you to the left. Same with drifting. Left drift means you're pressing right and the drift button. Right drift means you're pressing left and the drift button. If you're going to go with a setup like that, you need to decide on that early and not later. I tried adjusting to this because I thought it would be a cool thing to get used to, but no, I couldn't do it. I was already too set in my ways that I couldn't do it. So immediate and delayed gets on my nerves because I don't see the benefit. So what these mean is if you, let's say you were drifting on the floor and you made your way from the floor drifting all the way up to the sidewall to the ceiling, or you just turned your car to go from the ground to the sidewall to the ceiling and you're holding your joystick. Delayed, well, let's go over default. I'm sorry, let's go over the default one first. So the first three mean left, right mean right on the ceiling. So by default, if you press and hold left on your joystick when you're going up from the ground to the sidewall to the ceiling, left is going to kind of become right on the ceiling until you let go of your joystick or let go of a button or change something as it says in the instructions. When you let go of whatever, it goes back to left being left and right being right. I haven't found a lot of scenarios where any of these three make any difference at all, okay? It's very specific, where you must be doing something very specific to where these matter. I personally would stick to one of two of them, default or immediate, because immediate is good because it doesn't matter what direction you're pressing. The moment that you go from the ground to the sidewall to the ceiling, left means left and right means right. I personally think the safest bet is immediate, if anything, but you can go with either one. You can go with immediate or default. Default means, let's say if I'm drifting and I go up the ground to the sidewall to the ceiling and I'm holding left, that means my car is still kind of be acting like it's trying to turn more to the right, even though I'm pressing left. I'm just kind of giving that as an example. So, but that's only if you go from the ground, but the whole motion is that you're going from the ground to the left wall to the ceiling. None of these really make any difference. The first three don't make any difference if you go from the ground to the ceiling, okay? That when you go straight to the ceiling, it automatically adjusts left meaning left and right meaning right. It's only very technical when you go from the ground to the left wall to the ceiling. This one is kind of one of those confusing options, but I'm just kind of really explaining so you hopefully can kind of understand what I'm getting at. But you can read these, but the biggest thing is I would say either use default or immediate or use never, okay? Never is just left meaning right, right meaning left. Default, immediate, and delayed, those three, personally, I don't think you're going to notice any difference using those three. But never is the one that you really need to pay attention to, all right? Okay, sorry for rambling on with that, but I believe that is it for the button part of the tutorial. I am going to do demonstrations of all these quick buttons just so you can kind of see what they look like in action, okay?